So today marks the first day of Diwali, also called Deepavali, a 5-day Hindu festival honoring the triumph of light over darkness, of good over evil. While it originated in the Hindu tradition, it is also celebrated by Jains, Sikhs, and Buddhists, whose faith came out of Hinduism, and who each have their own stories and rituals to accompany it. In other words, Diwali is a very important holiday for well over 1 billion people, not just in India, but in the Indian diaspora, which is around all the world, including here in Massachusetts. A significant enough group of people in my hometown celebrate Diwali that the school committee voted in 2021 to close the schools on Diwali. So I thought maybe we should learn more about it, not just in support of our neighbors, but also as part of our third source of our Unitarian Universalist covenant to draw upon the wisdom of the world's religions for inspiration in our own ethical and spiritual lives. And I decided to start by reaching out to my neighbor, Divya, and asking her if she would share with me how she and her family celebrate Diwali. I knew that I could learn about Diwali by reading books and websites, but I also wanted to hear from somebody who really did this. Not just what Diwali is about, but what it means to someone who celebrates it. I was a little nervous because I grew up a New Englander, and you know the things that we're not supposed to talk about: politics, money, and religion. But I reached out anyway, and I'm glad I did. Divya was really appreciative and excited that I was interested to learn more. And so we met for coffee, and she said she wasn't particularly religious, but yes, her family did celebrate Diwali, and it was very important to her. I did ask her if she would be willing to come with me and talk about it today, and she said she would have, except she's out of town. So maybe some other time I'll make her do this. So what I'm sharing today is a weaving together of my conversation with Divya and also what I did learn from reading my books and online. So when we sat down, Divya said that Hinduism is very different from the monotheistic traditions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam because of what she called its theological flexibility. There's no one central set of core creedal beliefs, nor one central understanding of God or the divine. She noted that India is such a large and populous country with different climates, economies, languages, and cultures that the practices within Hinduism vary greatly. As Wendy Doniger, a scholar and professor of Sanskrit and Indian studies, notes in her book, The Hindus, An Alternative History, Hindus did not develop a strong sense of themselves as members of a distinct religion until there were other religions against which they needed to define themselves. Indeed, most people in India would still define themselves by allegiances other than their religion. The Hindus have not usually viewed themselves as a group, for they are truly a rainbow people with different colors, drawing upon not only a wide range of texts from the many unwritten traditions and vernacular religions of unknown origins to Sanskrit texts that begin well before 1000 BCE and are still being composed. But more important, upon the many ways in which a single text has been read over the centuries by people of different castes, genders, and individual needs and desires. There is no single founder or institution to enforce any single construction of the tradition, to rule on what is or is not a Hindu idea, or to draw the line when someone finally goes too far and transgresses the unspoken boundaries. Ideas about all the major issues, vegetarianism, nonviolence, even caste itself, are subjects of debate, not dogma. There is no Hindu canon. Because Hinduism is very much a religion of the land, the sacred stories and rituals serve and reflect the natural environment of the different regions, which range from tropical and coastal, which is where Divya grew up, to cold and mountainous. And Hinduism has a very large pantheon of gods and goddesses who each have their own avatars and incarnations. It's amazing. And the oldest or earliest of these divine powers were associated with forces of nature. Later deities or incarnations and avatars came to embody divine or demonic spiritual qualities or characteristics. They've evolved over the millennia as the people and the land have evolved. Similarly, Hindu scripture is rich and varied. The oldest written texts are the Vedas, a collection of originally orally transmitted hymns and prayers, which are believed to go back 10,000 years. 10,000 years. Then came the epic stories and histories, the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, and the one we heard from today, the Ramayana. Finally, there are the sutras, or the collections of Hindu philosophies. Because Hinduism is deeply identified with the land and nature of India, it is not a religion that tries to convert people or that easily accepts converts. So, Diwali is one of the most important holidays in the Hindu calendar because it marks the beginning of the new year. The name comes from the Sanskrit word for clay lamp, Deepa. I got some clay lamps. And the word for row, Avali. As one of the central rituals is to place a row of clay lamps in front of your home and light them at night. Hinduism has its own lunar calendar, and Diwali is celebrated just before the arrival of the new moon between the months of Asvina and Kartika, so it falls sometime between October and November, depending on the moon. Thus, it comes in the season of harvest and honors the generosity and abundance of the earth. It also marks the first day of the new financial year for businesses in India. The specific stories associated with Diwali vary from region to region. For example, in South India, Diwali honors the victory of Lord Krishna, an avatar of the god Vishnu, over the demon king Narakasura. He had imprisoned 16,000 women in his palace and harshly punished any of his subjects who dared stand up against him. In Western India, Diwali celebrates Vishnu's banishment of King Bali, whose immense power had become a threat to the gods. And in the north, Diwali celebrates the return of King Rama, another avatar of Vishnu, and his queen Sita, herself an avatar of Lakshmi, the Hindu goddess of wealth, fortune, fertility, and prosperity. According to the Ramayana, Sita had been kidnapped by the demon king Ravana, and it took Rama 14 years to rescue her and return home to reclaim his throne. So we have these different stories, but they all revolve around this central theme of good overcoming evil, or light overcoming darkness, or of balance being restored. Something I think we could really use right now. And Diwali lasts 5 days, and there are specific rituals for each day. On the first day, families clean out their homes as they prepare for the feast and celebration to come. On the second day, people decorate the front of the outside of their homes with the clay lamps and with rangoli, which are beautiful circular designs created out of brightly colored powders, sand, or flower petals. If you have a moment, look online. They're spectacular. They're so colorful. And these first 2 days are to prepare for the third and most important day. Some people go to temple to honor the goddess Lakshmi. People gather for community feasts, and there's a lot of food, particularly sweets. At night, everyone lights the lamps that they have set out, and oftentimes there are fireworks displays. On the fourth day is when you go visit your family and friends to exchange gifts and celebrate the new year. And on the last day, people honor and connect with their siblings. So it's a day for siblings. Wendy Doniger describes Hinduism as having a rich and complex pluralism, which she describes as a kind of cognitive dissonance in which a person holds a toolbox of different beliefs more or less simultaneously, drawing upon one on one occasion, another on another. Multiple narratives coexist peacefully, sometimes in one open mind and sometimes in a group of people whose minds may be individually relatively closed. When it comes to ritual, too, an individual Hindu may worship several gods on several different occasions to satisfy different needs on different festival days, in fellowship with different members of the family. A bride will often bring into the home a religion different from that of her husband's, or as a matter of choice, as new gods are encountered. So I think this is the theological flexibility that Divya grew up with. And Divya said that Diwali was a bit like a combination of Christmas and the 4th of July, between the decorations and the food and the gift gifting and the firework. And she remembers her mother doing this deep cleaning of the house, inside and out, clearing out all the negative or harmful spirits from the home. And then Divya said she and her whole family underwent a deep cleaning of their bodies as well, eating what she described as yucky food to clear out their gut, taking special baths, and wearing brand new clothes. She remembers people gambling and playing games of luck in honor of Lakshmi, because she was the goddess of wealth and prosperity. And Divya also remembered having to wear a sash in a color that indicated her family's caste. And she said that in her generation, there's been a very strong push to stop this practice because they want to end the caste system. Divya also shared with me about her growing up in India generally. And what she remembers most deeply from her childhood were all her mother's prayers and blessings. She said her mother had a prayer or a blessing for everything, for the morning, for the meals, for bedtime, for special time, holidays like Diwali, holy days, for births and birthdays and anniversaries and deaths. Prayers and blessings for the garden and for the home, for the first day of school or a new job, or as Divya said, laughing, a new gas stove. And she said this is something she's trying to pass on to her own children. And I said it sounded as if her mother taught her that the sacred is everywhere, in everything, and that it's important to look for that and to remember and to give thanks. So while there are real and significant differences between Hinduism and Unitarian Universalism, tied as Hinduism is to the land of India, I see some resonances as well, like the ability to hold a diversity of cultures and of sacred stories and practices within one faith. Seeing the sacred embodied in the natural world and in human relationships. Acceptance that revelation is not sealed. There's always a new divine presence to be known. As Abhi Chanamanchi, my Hindu UU colleague, said, "The sacred is present and available to us wherever we look or are willing to find it. If we remain open and expectant, watching out of the corners of our eyes, keeping our ears cocked, putting away all preconceived ideas, our lives will emanate the sacred." To our Hindu neighbors, I wish a colorful, abundant, and joyous Diwali. And may that colorful, abundant joy bless our whole world.